First contact. The massive alien ship hung in Earth's orbit like a silver cloud. It was 10 times bigger than the largest human space station. On the bridge of this ship, Admiral Drek of the United Galactic Council stared at the blue planet below. He had seen many worlds, but this one seemed different. Primitive weapon systems, said his second-in-command, Officer Tull. Their space technology is basic. They barely reached their own moon 50 years ago. Drek nodded to make contacts. Within hours, the news spread across Earth. Aliens were real. They came in peace. They wanted to welcome humans to the galactic community. In the White House, President Bell watched the alien transmission with wide eyes. The Joint Chiefs of Staff stood behind her, faces tight with worry. They say there are over 200 species in their council, said General Adams. Some have been in space for thousands of years. The president leaned forward, and now they found us. Over the next few weeks, humans learned about the galaxy. They learned about faster-than-light travel, about planet-sized cities, about wars that spanned star systems. They learned they were very, very small in a very, very big universe. But they also learned something else. The aliens were impressed by humans. Your adaptability is remarkable, Admiral Drek told President Bell during their first meeting. Most species take hundreds of years to advance from steam power to space flight. You did it in less than 2 centuries. The president smiled. We're quick learners. Admiral Drek didn't smile back. That makes some council members nervous. 6 months after first contact, Earth joined the United Galactic Council as a junior member. Human diplomats traveled to alien worlds. Alien traders came to Earth. Technology was shared carefully and slowly. The galaxy opened up to humanity. Then came the problem with the Vaughn empires. The Vaughn were not part of the council. They were conquerors, a lizard-like species with scales that shimmered like oil on water. They controlled 30 star systems at the edge of council space, and they wanted more. The mining rights to the Centauri system belonged to Earth, said Ambassador Jones in the council meeting. We established outposts there before we even met the council. The Vaughn ambassador, a tall figure with a hood that hid most of his face, hissed softly. The Centauri system lies within Vaughn space. Your presence there is illegal. That's not true, Jones said. The council's own star charts show. The council does not dictate to the Vaughn Empire, the alien cut in. We take what is ours. That night, Vaughn ships attacked the human mining colony in Alpha Centauri. 200 people died. Emergency meetings filled the next 3 days. The council urged caution. The Vaughn Empire was powerful with thousands of warships. Earth had fewer than 50 ships that could even leave the solar system. We cannot start a war, said the Mentak representative, a jellyfish-like being that floated in a tank of green liquid. The Vaughn would crush Earth. Admiral Drek looked at the human ambassador with something like pity. Perhaps you could offer compensation for the mining rights. Ambassador Jones stood up. Earth does not respond to threats. In the Pentagon War Room, President Bell met with her military leaders. Screens showed the Vaughn fleet, massive ships with weapons Earth scientists couldn't even understand. They have us outgunned in every way, said Admiral Wilson. Their smallest destroyer could take out our entire fleet. So what do we do? Asked the president. Surrender our rights, let them kill our people without answering. General Lay stepped forward. Ma'am, we have a plan. It's unusual. I'm listening. We send 3 ships. The room went silent. 3 ships, the president repeated, against their entire fleet. Not just any ships, said Lee. The Defiant, the Innovation, and the Unity. The president knew these names. They were Earth's newest vessels, built with some alien technology but mostly human ingenuity. They were good ships, but only 3. This is suicide, said the Secretary of Defense. No, General Lee said firmly, it's strategy. 2 days later, the president addressed the United Galactic Council. The chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. The Vaughn ambassador stood to one side, his hooded face impossible to read. The Vaughn Empire has attacked Earth citizens without provocation, President Bell said. They have killed innocent people. They have claimed territory that is not theirs. She paused. Earth will respond. Murmurs filled the chamber. The MNTA representative's tentacles waved frantically. Please reconsider. The Vaughn fleet will destroy your world. The Vaughn ambassador made a sound like laughter. Listen to the council, human. Your species is young. You do not understand the power you face. President Bell looked directly at the hooded figure. We understand power very well. Earth will dispatch 3 warships to protect our interests in the Centauri system. Silence fell, then came whispers, confusion. 3 ships, Admiral Drek asked. That is your response? Yes, said the president, just 3. The Vaughn ambassador's laughter filled the chamber. Humans are more foolish than we thought. 3 ships, we will destroy them in minutes. President Bell didn't respond to the taunt. She simply turned and walked out of the chamber, leaving confusion in her wake. On the edge of the solar system, 3 ships prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed. The UES Defiant, commanded by Captain James Miller, the UES Innovation with Chief Engineer Lisa Reed, the UES Unity under Commander Thomas Wilson. Just 3 ships against an empire. The galaxy watched and wondered, why would humans send just 3 ships to war? They would soon find out. The Defiant. Captain James Miller stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching the stars streak by as the ship moved through hyperspace. At 45, Miller had spent most of his life in Earth's Navy before moving to Space Command. His hair was going gray at the temples, and the lines around his eyes showed years of hard decisions. Sir, we'll reach the Centauri system in 10 minutes, said his navigation officer. Miller nodded. Bring us out of hyperspace behind the 3rd moon of Centauri B. We need to see what we're dealing with before they see us. On the main screen, the ship's scanners showed 12 Vaughn warships orbiting the human mining colony. The alien vessels were massive, covered in weapons that could tear through most human ships like paper. Quite a welcoming party, Miller said quietly. He tapped his communication panel. Reed, Wilson, are you receiving our scan data? Crystal clear, came Lisa Reed's voice from the Innovation. These Vaughn ships are even bigger than the reports suggested. I see 7 destroyers, 3 cruisers, and 2 command ships, said Commander Wilson from the Unity. They really want this mining colony. Miller smiled slightly. Good, that means they'll be overconfident. Throughout human history, Miller had studied warfare. He had read Sun Tzu, Clausewitz, and books about every major battle on Earth. One lesson stood out: never fight the battle your enemy expects. Begin Phase 1, Miller ordered. The Defiant emerged from behind the moon, alone and visible to all Vaughn scanners. The ship moved slowly toward the alien fleet, making no attempt to hide. On the largest Vaughn ship, Commander Varsk watched the human vessel approach, his scaled face showing confusion then amusement. They sent 1 ship, he said to his officers. 1 small human ship against our fleet. Perhaps it is a diplomatic vessel, suggested his second-in-command. Varsk flicked his tongue, a gesture of dismissal. No, the humans said they would send warships. This must be their idea of war, he laughed, a harsh sound. Let us educate them on real warfare, target their engines. I want that ship disabled, not destroyed. The Council will see how quickly the humans surrender when faced with true power. 5 Vaughn destroyers moved to surround the Defiant. On Miller's bridge, warning lights flashed. They're targeting us, Captain, reported the tactical officer. Good, said Miller calmly. Now let's show them something they've never seen before. Activate stealth systems. The Defiant's hull, which looked like standard metal to Vaughn scanners, suddenly changed. Tiny panels shifted, revealing a surface that absorbed energy rather than reflecting it. At the same time, the ship's heat signature vanished. On the Vaughn command ship, alarms sounded. We've lost them, shouted a scanner officer. The human ship just disappeared. Impossible, Vars hissed. Nothing can hide from Vaughn scanners, find them. But the Defiant was truly invisible. Humans had been working on this technology since long before they met aliens. They called it the Ghost System. It didn't make the ship truly invisible, it just made it extremely hard to detect with any known scanner technology. Miller's voice was steady as he gave orders. Position us behind the smallest destroyer, prepare micro-torpedoes. The Defiant silently moved into position. The Vaughn ships were still searching, firing randomly into space, hopping to hit the vanished human vessel. Fire, Miller said. 2 small torpedoes shot from the Defiant. They weren't aimed at the Vaughn ship's main hull, but at a specific point where the ship's engine connected to its power core, a weakness Miller's team had identified from studying Vaughn ship designs in Council records. The explosion wasn't large, but it didn't need to be. The Vaughn destroyer's engines failed and it began to drift. One down, Miller said, move to the next target. For the next 20 minutes, the Defiant struck from nowhere, disabling Vaughn ships one by one. They never fired at the same spot twice. Sometimes they targeted engines, sometimes weapon systems, sometimes communication arrays. Vars's anger turned to fear as his fleet fell into chaos. 4 ships disabled, then 5, then 6, all without even seeing their attacker. "This is impossible," he shouted. "No species has this technology." That's when the second human ship appeared. The UES Innovation dropped out of hyperspace directly above the Vaughn fleet. Unlike the Defiant, it didn't try to hide. Instead, it unleashed a barrage of unusual projectiles. They weren't explosive warheads but looked like small metallic spheres. The spheres attached to the hulls of 3 Vaughn ships. Seconds later, the ship's weapon systems shut down completely. "Some kind of electronic warfare," gasped Varsk's technology officer. "It's overriding our control systems." Varsk slammed his fist on his command chair. "Call for reinforcements, now." As his communication officer tried to send the message, a third human ship appeared. The UES Unity positioned itself just outside weapons range and broadcast a powerful signal that jammed all Vaughn communications. In less than an hour, without firing a single shot that could destroy a Vaughn ship, the 3 human vessels had neutralized the entire Vaughn fleet. Miller opened a channel to the Vaughn command ship. "This is Captain James Miller of Earth. Your ships are disabled, your communications are blocked, you are not destroyed because we chose not to destroy you. Consider this a demonstration." Vars shook with rage when he responded. "This trickery will not save you. The Vaughn Empire has thousands of ships. We will return with hundreds and burn your colony to ash." "You're welcome to try," Miller replied calmly. "But first, I suggest you report to your leaders what happened here today. Tell them that 3 human ships defeated 12 of yours without suffering a single casualty." After ensuring the mining colony was secure, the 3 Earth ships prepared to return home. Before they left, Miller sent one final message to the disabled Vaughn fleet. "You asked why humans would send just 3 ships to war," he said. "Now you begin to understand." As the Defiant jumped back to hyperspace, Miller knew this was just the beginning. The Vaughn would return with a bigger fleet, but now they would be cautious, uncertain. They would have questions about human capabilities, human tactics, human technology. And that uncertainty was exactly what Miller had wanted to create. The Vaughn had expected an easy victory. Instead, they got a mystery. And in war, Miller knew mysteries were often more powerful than missiles. The innovation. Chief Engineer Lisa Reed wiped sweat from her forehead as she worked deep in the engine room of the UES Innovation. At 36, she was the youngest chief engineer in Earth's fleet, known for her ability to make machines do things they weren't supposed to do. "Hand me that plasma wrench," she said to her assistant. The Innovation's engine room looked nothing like what aliens might expect. While most galactic ships had clean, streamlined engine cores, this room was a maze of added components, modified systems, and technology that should not work together but somehow did. "Captain Miller's message just came through," her assistant said, passing her the tool. "The Vaughn are sending reinforcements, a lot of them." Reed nodded, not looking up from her work. "How many ships?" 50. Now she looked up. 50? Well, that's a compliment, I guess, sending 50 ships against our 3. She patted the engine housing beside her. "Good thing we've got a few surprises left." 3 days had passed since the first battle at Centauri. As Miller had predicted, the Vaughn were angry and determined to crush the humans completely. What the Vaughn didn't know was that humans had been preparing for this moment long before they met any aliens. 60 years ago, a strange object had crashed in the New Mexico desert. The world's governments had kept it secret, but that object contained technology beyond human understanding. For decades, scientists had studied it, learned from it, and slowly integrated some of its principles into human technology. When the United Galactic Council found Earth, humans pretended to be more primitive than they were. They showed the Council their official space program but kept their advanced research hidden. Reed had been part of that research since she was a graduate student. "All ships prepare for Vaughn arrival," came Captain Miller's voice over the communication system. "They'll be here in 20 minutes." Reed pulled herself from under the engine housing. "Time to get to the bridge," she told her team. "Phase 2 begins now." On the bridge of the Innovation, Captain Robert Davis waited for his chief engineer. Unlike the military-focused Defiant or the communication-specialized Unity, the innovation was essentially a floating laboratory disguised as a warship. "Cutting it close, Chief," he said as Reed arrived. "Had to finish the modifications to the pulse drive," she replied, taking her station. "Gave us another 20% power capacity." Davis raised an eyebrow. "The aliens say that's impossible with current technology." Reed smiled. "Good thing we don't listen to everything aliens say." The ship's scanner showed the hyperspace distortion forming. 50 Vaughn ships emerged, their weapons already charged. This fleet wasn't just destroyers, it included massive dreadnoughts with planet-killing capability. On the lead Vaughn ship, Fleet Commander Jex watched the 3 human vessels with contempt. His predecessor had been demoted after the embarrassment at Centauri, and Jex had no intention of failing. "They're using some kind of stealth technology and electronic warfare," he told his officers. "But no stealth can hide from 50 ships firing in all directions. No electronic warfare can affect an entire fleet spread across this much space." He bared his teeth in what passed for a smile among the Vaughn. "This time, we will not underestimate them. All ships target the human vessels and fire at will." The space around the Centauri colony lit up as 50 Vaughn ships opened fire. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes shot toward the 3 human ships. On the Innovation, Reed's fingers flew across her control panel, activating deflection field in 3-2-1. The Innovation's hull began to glow with a faint blue light. As Vaughn weapons fire approached, something strange happened. The energy beams curved away from the ship, missing it entirely. The torpedoes changed course at the last second, passing harmlessly by. "Gravitational manipulation field working perfectly," Reed announced. "They can't hit what they can't reach." The Defiant and Unity had activated similar systems. All 3 human ships stood untouched in the middle of the most intense barrage the Vaughn could produce. On his ship, Jex stared in disbelief. "How is this possible? No defense system can deflect weapons at this range." "It's not a standard shield," his science officer responded, voice shaking. "They're bending space itself around their ships, the technology required for this. It should be thousands of years beyond human capability." Reed's voice came through on the fleet communication channel. "Captain Davis, request permission to show the Vaughn what real speed looks like." "Permission granted, Chief," Davis replied. "Just try not to break my ship." Reed grinned. "No promises." She activated the pulse drive, her own creation, based partly on the crashed alien technology and partly on theories that most physicists considered impossible. The Innovation shot forward at a speed that made it nearly invisible to the naked eye. It moved between Vaughn ships so quickly they couldn't track it. With each pass, the human ship left behind small devices that attached to Vaughn hulls. "What are those?" Jex demanded as one attached to his own ship. Before his officers could answer, the device activated. A pulse of energy shot through the ship's systems, temporarily freezing every electronic component. All across the Vaughn fleet, ships started to drift, their systems disabled for precious minutes. Reed didn't stop there. As the Innovation danced between enemy vessels, she activated the ship's most secret weapon, the replicator. Based on technology that humans had kept hidden even from themselves, the replicator could restructure matter at the molecular level. Reed had modified it to affect ship systems. The Innovation sent targeted energy pulses at 5 Vaughn ships. Suddenly, those ships' weapons turned inward, firing on other Vaughn vessels. "She's reprogramming their targeting systems on the fly," breathed Miller from the Defiant. "I didn't know she could do that." Meanwhile, Commander Wilson on the Unity had used the confusion to position his ship perfectly. The Unity broadcast a signal that the humans had designed based on their study of Vaughn communication patterns. The signal contained code that spread through the Vaughn fleet network like a virus. One by one, Vaughn ship engines shut down. Weapon systems went offline. Life support remained functional. The humans weren't trying to kill, only to disable. In less than an hour, the entire Vaughn fleet floated helplessly in space. Reed returned to the Innovation's bridge, her face streaked with grease but wearing a triumphant smile. "Not bad for a day's work," she said. Captain Davis looked at her with new respect. "The Vaughn thought they knew what human technology was capable of. You just rewrote their understanding." Reed shook her head. "This isn't just about technology, it's about how humans use it." She gestured at the disabled Vaughn fleet. They build bigger ships with bigger weapons. We build smarter ships with adaptable systems. She looked out at the stars. The galaxy thinks humanity is young. They don't understand that being young means we haven't settled into old ways of thinking. We see possibilities where they see limitations. As the three human ships regrouped, Reed sent a message to her counterparts on the other vessels. Phase 2 complete, ready for Phase 3. The true human strategy was unfolding exactly as planned. The Unity. Commander Thomas Wilson sat quietly in his private quarters aboard the UES Unity. Unlike the other two ships in Earth's small fleet, the Unity didn't look impressive from the outside. It carried fewer weapons than the Defiant and lacked the experimental technology of the Innovation. But appearances could be deceiving. At 52, Wilson had spent most of his life studying other cultures. Before aliens came to Earth, he had been a professor of anthropology, specializing in how different human societies communicated. After first contact, he became Earth's foremost expert on alien psychology. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. "Commander, we're receiving the signal from the Innovation," his communications officer reported. "Phase 2 is complete. The Vaughn fleet has been neutralized." "Thank you," Wilson replied. "Prepare for Phase 3. It's time for me to go to work." While Captain Miller fought battles and Engineer Reed built impossible technology, Wilson's job was different. He fought with words, ideas, and information. The Unity's bridge was unlike the others in Earth's fleet. Instead of weapons controls, it was filled with advanced communication systems and data analysis terminals. The screens showed not enemy ships but information flows, communication patterns across the Vaughn Empire. "The Vaughn have already sent messages to their home world about their defeat," reported his second-in-command. "They're requesting even more ships." Wilson nodded. "And how is the Vaughn public reacting?" "That's the interesting part," she replied. "There is no public reaction. The Vaughn leadership is keeping these defeats secret from their own people." Wilson smiled slightly. "Just as we suspected, begin the broadcast." For years, human intelligence had been gathering information about the Vaughn Empire. They learned that despite its aggressive stance toward other species, the Vaughn government faced problems at home. The military leadership lived in luxury while ordinary Vaughn citizens struggled. Resources that could help everyone were used to build more warships. Wilson had studied these patterns and found something important. The Vaughn Empire was not as united as it appeared. The Unity activated its most powerful system, a communication array that could send targeted messages across vast distances. It began broadcasting directly to Vaughn colonies throughout their empire, bypassing official channels. "People of the Vaughn Empire," Wilson's message began. It was translated perfectly into the Vaughn language with subtle adjustments for regional dialects. "We are humans from Earth. Your leaders have told you we are weak, primitive creatures. They have not told you that we have defeated 2 of their fleets without a single casualty." The broadcast included images of the disabled Vaughn ships. It continued, "Your leaders have not told you many things. They have not told you how much of your empire's wealth is kept by the ruling families. They have not told you about their failed wars, their secret agreements with pirates who raid your colonies, or the resources they have hidden from you." Wilson's team had prepared detailed evidence of corruption among Vaughn leadership, evidence gathered through months of careful intelligence work. The broadcast shared it all directly with the Vaughn public. "We do not wish to fight your people," Wilson's message concluded. "Our quarrel is with leaders who attack others to hide their failures at home. We send this message in the spirit of truth. What you do with this truth is your choice." On the Vaughn home world, Supreme Leader Krax received urgent reports from across the Empire. Colonial governors reported public demonstrations. Military commanders reported questions from their troops. For the first time in generations, ordinary Vaughn were questioning their leaders. "Find the source of these transmissions and destroy it," Krax ordered. "Send our entire reserve fleet to the Centauri system. Crush these humans completely." But the damage was already done. The Unity had broadcast not just to public channels, but directly to personal communication devices throughout the Empire. The information was spreading too fast to stop. Meanwhile, Wilson wasn't finished. As the Vaughn prepared their largest fleet yet, over 200 ships, the Unity slipped away from the Centauri system, using the same stealth technology as the UES Defiant. It traveled undetected to the edge of Vaughn space. "Our target is the Vaughn colony on Keller," Wilson told his crew. It's their largest mining world, the source of materials for their warships. The Unity arrived at Keller and sent a different message, this one just to the colony's workers. The ships being built with your labor have been defeated by just 3 human vessels, the message said. Your leaders are sending more ships which will meet the same fate. How many resources will be wasted before they tell you the truth? The workers of Keller had long been unhappy with their conditions. The human message sparked what had been building for years. Within hours, the mining operation stopped. The workers demanded changes, better conditions, honest information, and end to endless war. Similar uprisings began on other Vaughn worlds, not violent rebellions but work stoppages, questions, demands for truth. The Vaughn Empire, built on conquest and control, faced something it had never prepared for, its own people thinking for themselves. On the Unity, Wilson watched the reports come in. The Vaughn Reserve Fleet has been delayed, his intelligence officer said. Many of the ships are being held back to deal with the colonial situations. And the rest, Wilson asked. Still coming to Centauri, about 80 ships. Wilson nodded. Inform Captain Miller and Engineer Reed. Phase 3 is complete. The Vaughn Empire is fighting itself now. They'll send ships to fight us, but their heart isn't in it anymore. His second-in-command looked troubled. Commander, some might say what we've done, turning a species against its own government, is worse than ordinary warfare. Wilson considered this. We didn't create the problems in the Vaughn Empire, we just made them impossible to ignore. He looked at the screen showing reports from across Vaughn space. Sometimes the strongest weapon isn't a gun or a bomb, it's the truth. As the Unity rejoined the other human ships at Centauri, Wilson prepared for the final confrontation. The Vaughn were still coming, wounded, confused, but dangerous. The real question, he told his crew, is whether they've started to understand why we sent just 3 ships. I think they're beginning to see it isn't about the number of ships at all. Phase 4 would soon begin, and then the galaxy would truly understand the human strategy. The resolution. The 3 human ships floated in formation near the Centauri mining colony. Before them, 80 Vaughn warships emerged from hyperspace. The remains of the once proud reserve fleet, now reduced by the internal troubles spreading across the Vaughn Empire. On the bridge of the Defiant, Captain Miller watched the enemy ships appear on his screen. Quite a reduction from the 200 they originally planned to send, said his tactical officer. Miller nodded. Commander Wilson's information campaign is working. It was always part of the plan. Now we finish this.